doing this is to use an engine gearbox hoist. You need a scrolling front.
It's showtime.
Jacking up the front is a lot harder than the rear. Engine hoist strap underneath the frame. If the strap goes underneath the frame and you feel anything, that is going to crush. Stop at that point. These are the EBCs discs. Those are the pads. Front and rear. Just since the packaging doesn't want to cooperate. EBC documentation. Metal, hand rolled in German. Well, machine rolled in Germany, I'd say. There they are. That look beautiful. Problem. Let's get her undone. That's it, how is one?
Some dickhead has put lithium grease on your caliper bolts. What a fucking knob. So you find this, whenever you do a job on a motorcycle, what you end up finding is stuff that you'd rather have left alone. And what I've got here is the previous mechanic who's touched these calipers is going to put lithium grease on the caliper bolts, which explains why they came off so easily. That's a really, really dangerous technique. We'll all have different opinions on that, but you know, lithium grease, I really want to grease these bolts. For what reason? So they come off at high speed when I need them the most.
You need to take off. That's just like a little bit of light, isn't it?
Oh, but some 250 lithium grease. This one comes in there as well.
Sometimes you don't know.
They're sat there, but yeah, sometimes you don't want to run.
Yeah.
Sort of prejudice works on your bike in the past.
But now it's going to be inside the frame.
Some, yeah, they only nip up on the last few threads is what they nip up.
Threads? It's metal. If you have the grease between those pieces of metal, how are they supposed to stay tight? This is a lot of straps. A lot of straps. When you put those brake rotors in, it's going to be a lot of straps. You need it to grip. Not fucking be loose. That's not dangerous stuff. That's why you get to professional. But even professionals are fucked up. And it's not because we're idiots. It's just because other people have different ways. See, I'm pretty sure Kawasaki didn't want this to come off. That's the problem I've got now.
If we drop the wheel off, life might be a little easier for us. But they are always difficult to take in.
Two parts to it. Which one do we need to undo first?
Actually, it's just that. These are really, really important that you don't over tighten them. And the reason you don't over tighten them is because cracks can form here. So really, this is a pinch bolt, and it's just pinching the two parts of the fork leg together, which is holding this really, really well. So it's an extra way of securing it, I suppose. A big mistake I see a lot of the time is high-line cracks here, where amateur mechanic has over-tightened these or over-torqued them. And it's ended up cracking here, and they're riding around on their bike, don't care, they're coming for service, and you're like, mate, new forks for you, and they're like, no, I did it, you know, a month ago with my mate. Yeah, put your forks up. So I'll crack that one off, and then we'll get something there.
We're using an 8mm Torx. Just not move, son.
Whilst Luke's taking that off, most importantly in a garage environment is tea.
And coffee! And coffee as well! Don't forget coffee. you've got to have some coffee too. It's not all about the tea, guys. It's not all about the tea. Just be gentle with it. Once it's loose, you can do this by hand and take it off. It's the problem when you take shit off, you forget how tight it was. Like the feel of how tight it was. That's why you have torque settings. That's quite clean.
So depending on the design of the motorcycle manufacturer, you might find that when you have one on one side, one not on the other, due to the design of the axle.
Ah. Oh yeah.
You'd think it would be symmetrical. But no.
Look at that, that's beautiful.
Just to explain what we're doing here
Look at that.
in more. Ooh, yeah.
Wow. That
So
was
these are
steel from Germany, European made. Or a bit of
These are
American.
made by EBC. And what is their designation? Is there a designation to them?
EBC
That sells
XC.
there's XC range. So there's a sales picture of everything, and
Yeah.
the sales picture of everything is a 0.5 mil thicker than standard brake discs. So to you or I, what that really means is we're going to instantly notice it, because we're going to have a front brake lever that actuates a lot quicker than what we're used to, and we'll go, wow, stomping brakes, but they've actually just made this thicker. That's all they've done to achieve that. I kind of like the standard brakes. This is a worthy upgrade though, because it's coming with pads as well. Yeah. So Luke's bought an entire kit.
A special order, isn't it? I had to have a good chat with Kawasaki. They're quite difficult with it. But I finally ordered them up. Another mistake to think, right, when you take that, take these bolts from the hub away, right, those have a Locktite on the thread, and when they come off, it's supposed to be a one, it comes off once and that's it, and shouldn't reuse the bolts. The reason why is because you lose that Locktite, it's more chance that those bolts could become loose. And this is your brakes. Most of the braking happens at the front of the motorcycle.
So in order to take the axle bolt off, I'm going to use this, which is what I use for sump bungs on Porsches. I'm going to put it in a long socket, 22, and then attach. I really hate these adapters. I can't stand them, but for some reason that's how my toolbox has ended up at the moment. And I'll sort that out.
Redesign.
Yeah. So it's designed to be torqued up. Oh. It's always going to seem really harsh when you first undo it. I mean, it's still impossible to do with your hand.
I'd rather it be tough than not.
The mistake a lot of amateurs, call me an amateur, I don't care, make is to use a smaller ratchet. Okay, smaller ratchet, and you'll be there forever. Use a much longer one, so you can invest in something like this for 15 quid upwards. And the longer ratchet just gives you more force, parts come off, get the job done quicker, get your invoice out, get the customer back on the road quicker. Have a look at the other side of the axle, just let me know if there's any movement there or anything's happening. It's coming off in one piece. It's coming through, yeah?
Yes, coming through.
Okay, so what's going to happen in a moment is that the entire wheel is going to want to drop. So if anything, I'll lift the wheel up. All of our techniques.
There's a way you can clean this, what are they called? It's called? It's a shaft. It's called an axle. There's a way you can clean them up. And this is what's keeping the wheel on the motorcycle, just that.
So instead of just yanking on it, I'm pulling and rotating, pulling and rotating. Can you try and lift the wheel?
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun, this. Fun.
It's actually your side that's the heaviest. My side's nice and light. Lift your side up. Oh, that is a beautiful looking axle. I'm used to them coming out all shitty. Got ourselves a bit of lithium here, so deal with that. Push it all back. And through.
Easy cock up to make. You need to keep the tyre in the same position as it was. Some of these are directional, but you've also got to think about how the axle was put together. You need to replicate that when it goes back together.
Now, see this? Tipex. You can put it somewhere inconspicuous if you want to. Now, that's going to be offside. Right, Tipex is offside. If you want to,
Yeah.
you could bang a bit of Tipex on a corresponding component of the motorcycle, and you'll never mess up your directional days till that comes off. Probably should have dubbed your alloy, but I know you wouldn't want that. Alright, Luke's going to let me, or at least allow a little bit of marker, just a little tiny. That's it, just that's it, that'll do. He's allowed me to mark his wheel so that that's offside.
Now we know.
I think the thickness is it. Oh, there we go. Also done is bought brand new bolts from Kawasaki, and they come with thread lock already on them. So back to earlier when somebody was putting the white lithium grease on the bolts that hold the calipers on. And yeah, so we just thread lock one bit and grease the other bit. No, let's not.
These bolts are hardcore.
So a really good technique is to use the end of it while holding this at the same time.
Doing it in a diagonal pattern.
Yeah, like a
Pattern.
Like a
Copy as well, like a copy.
they're all nicely cracked off now, so just really technique.
See, that's the first bolt. Locktite. Once the bolts are loose enough, use this technique to get them off pretty quickly. When it comes to this sort of job, it can take a few hours. So don't expect it to be a 5-minute job, half an hour. It isn't.
Nice, what have we got?
Got some sort of
So here's the old disc.
plastic spacer. So cool, so cool.
Strangely enough, it's in really, really nice condition. When you take anything off of a motorcycle, take it off in the orientation and place it in the orientation it came off, because it's too easy to just go, oh, look at this, mate. Oh, yeah, fantastic. Oh, yeah, I think it went on that way.
Yeah.
And you'll screw up, because here, where the bolts go in, the surface is flat. Oh, no, look. If you had have tightened it up the other side, you would have made a mistake. So that's a really easy one to point out, but we've seen it too many times where someone's brought us something, and thankfully EBC have done exactly the same. They brought us something, and you kind of look at it and scratch your head, and you have to disassemble it and reimagine it in order to make it work. And the owner's like, "You're having a laugh. It was all over a missing gasket that I chucked in the bin." And so what we found here is the bike's got a gasket on it. It looks like it's made of plastic, actually. It's a plastic gasket. And it's going back on the bike.
Yes.
It's there for a reason, so it's going back on. I'm just going to make sure these surfaces are nice and clean before we do. And then we're going to put the first EBC on. Easiest thing to do in my vehicle is actually put them in the box. So if you pop them all in the box, yeah, just chuck them in. It's not like you're ever going to want them again. And there's your new rotor. We're going to pop that on. We're going to keep the old parts, not that we're ever going to use them again, in the box. And I'll label that in a moment, which came from the near side of the bike. You just never know. What if this EBC fractures, or during its first warm-up cycles or something like that, something goes wrong, we can revert to the old stuff pretty quickly. And I'll hold on to this for maybe 14 days or maybe 30 days before I bin it. So these are the new ones, cover bolts, made in Japan. Hopefully you can see that. From Kawasaki, and it's got the Locktite on the threads ready to go. Before I get a bit emotional about this stuff. Kawasaki's my baby, so is my Toyota. It's my babies. Good old married. These are called disc rotors, by the way, disc rotors. And some mechanics say it shouldn't be called that. Fair play, it's your opinion at the end of the day. Nothing wrong with that. You need to get a plastic spacer and hose on the hub around. And I think it's easy watching it on YouTube, but actually it isn't. So it takes the slightest movement and that plastic's just going to be out of position again. It's like, oh, for God's sake. Always new ones. And that way you can't cock up either. So if you redid that Locktite, you made a mistake, can't tighten. One shot deal these as well. I'm going to tighten them up, but I'm only going to use this just to nip them. And we're going to do this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Kind of if you were drawing a star. 5 bolts each side. Don't be using grease now. What, lithium grease? Oh. You don't realise that this all needs to be tight. So in here, the threads need to be locked into place. And every part of this hub, that other hub, when these go in the caliper bolts, the axle, because that's what's stopping this bike from turning into a dangerous, killing, flying piece of metal when something goes wrong. So be aware of that. It's amazing, this stuff was made on the other side of the world. Yeah, it can get here in a couple of days. Other side of the world. It's mental. When it comes to this stuff, I'm sure Dad has the same philosophy. Either do it right or don't do it at all. But you can do this any way you like. You can tighten them up all the way, and then go on to the next one. I just, if I maintain the same technique that I've adopted all along, I won't deviate from it, and because I won't deviate from it, I won't make a catastrophic mistake. I've seen mechanics that they try and vary their approach depending on how they're feeling. Just to prove to you guys, the ER6F was also known as a Ninja 650R. Look at that. 650R. Hay fever. Hay fever. Hay fever. Hay fever. Again guys, your technique, whatever works for you, apart from the torquing up, just maintain the same. I really should be using one of those new snap-on electric torque wrench things, but I get bored. I'm not afraid of a bit of manual labour, although it would make life a lot easier right now. Sometimes 40 years ago we didn't have useful stuff to do now. I think mechanics just want to be using this equipment to make them weaker, make them think less, make their muscles weaker. That's an interesting way of looking at it. Used to be a time when a mechanic profession was well looked upon. Now the only thing that's well looked upon is a cheap motorcycle mechanic. If you're cheap and you're a motorcycle mechanic, if people love you. But if you're,
That's the thing,
Nobody seems to understand the amount of effort that you'll go to, the amount of tooling, and the amount of thought that goes into what you do.
And anything you do, right, if there's anything wrong that's not your fault, the customer's going to scream at you a lot of the time. Right.
Talking time.
Talking time is Kawasaki say those bolts should be 27 newton meters.
What did you set it for?
30.
Perfect.
Righty tighty, lefty loosey if you want to figure out which way it goes. And when I say that, I mean how it would turn. That's tightening. Right? That's loosening.
It's just that different manufacturers will put the switch in different places. Positions. Make sure it drops down right into the bolt.
Right in there, give it a good wiggle.
Give it a tap if you have to, and then go.
Try and find the position where you can do the big swing. And that's getting tight. And stop. A wiggle. Get flat one. Down. Good flat one. Good slap. See, we care about the Kawasaki's so much. We care about
the
them
technique
so much.
used on the customers.
But customers do, yes. Yes.
You know,
We're customers.
You're going to get some professional on here going, oh no. For the last 30 years I've been doing it a different way, and my way's the best, because I'm the best.
There's a lot of people like that.
He's only the best until he dies, and then someone else makes him. It's as simple. If he dies, his customers would fucking go and find someone else. So, to make out you're the best is stupid.
Be humble, guys, be humble.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect with mechanics or IT, but I do the best job I possibly can. And I learn. And I find what works.
As other people go,
Well, I've been through so much training. I went to university, got a degree, and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I can kick your ass. What's that training called?
I
thought so fuck off. And let me do my job.
I know someone who's a tire fitter. He's a crack it.
Keep going until it goes.
That's it. Move on. Wiggle it. All direction.
Find the next one. This point, is it worth doing another click? You've got two clicks up.
That's a mistake a lot of people make. It says 27 newton meters, 30 newton meters, wherever it says 37 newton meters, click it to that and leave it at that. To go doing it again, all you're actually doing is tightening it more.
Yes, because of that extra tone.
And they'll say, no, you can't over tighten it. Fucking sin it myself.
Next side, guys, next side. Remember, technique. And then with the tyre. You might have to do this on your own. It would be a cunt of shit. Family, guys, family. Most important thing. Until they're dead.
And then it's motorbikes.
Motorbikes and cars.
That's something that people forget is which you can actually replace a family member with a motorcycle. And then when that motorcycle dies, just replace it again. Continue replacing until you're dead.
Can't replace a pad. Now, you can just crack on. See how much time this takes, guys. This isn't a 5 minute job. This isn't a half an hour job. Fuck. And yet you wonder why mechanics charge so much money. It's because of the amount of time they have to put into it. Now, yes, there are bad mechanics out there. Yes. When you find the good ones, don't be an arsehole.
Push it into the wall.
If that's the price for the job, accept it.
If you find a good mechanic, accept it.
No. If you look, let's say you go to, I don't know, mechanic that goes, oil and filter, that's £290. The parts actually cost them £5. And oil.
Then I'd say they should be rolling in it. That's alright.
Okay. Again, look at the time. But that's what it says.
£5. That's impossible.
I know, because they want the cheapest bottle possible. But then you find the good mechanics like these guys, and then just accept what they charge out for a job, because it's not like...
It's not like we put tea on your bill.
No. It's not like it took them half an hour. They put a lot of time and effort into that, and be grateful for what you've got, because it's difficult to find good tradesmen out there. It's difficult.
Yeah. We find it ourselves. There's not other services that we need for our homes. Finding a good tradesman, all we ever find is assholes, and then we find one good one, and then they die.
Made in Japan. Made in Japan. The tires are made in Japan. Look at the smiley face on my face. Oh, I look mad. Look at that. Made in Japan. My tires are the same in the Toyota. Made in Japan. I don't understand why the Japanese, right, they can kick out this sort of stuff. The British fucking country can't. French do build better cars than us. The rest of Europe builds cars and do a better job than we ever did.
You have a really good point though. We should actually be quite embarrassed as a country.
Fucking joke is what we are. Fucking joke. We, British, need to learn from the rest of Europe. We need to learn from our European brothers. So not fucking European, but it seems the other lot can do better than we can. We need to learn from it and stop being such self-righteous twats.
Right, and expecting everything to be done for us.
Doesn't mean anything anymore. No.
Actually, I'm embarrassed to be honest.
It doesn't mean fuck all anymore. When we had an empire, it meant something, but we don't have that.
Empire schmempire.
We're not a power. And we're a joke for our fucking shitty traits. Our inability to build a good car, let alone a motorcycle. Motorcycle? That's a different story for next time, guys.
We go through bikes, don't we?
Triumph, but then there's...
We don't own that thing, do we?
And there's something about Triumph that if you guys learn, you'd be like, speed triple, engine, very, if not the same as all the other engines in other Triumphs. And this isn't me taking the piss. If it's a reliable engine, does it show up fair play? But do you not notice that? Triumph went one day, stop making different engines. Let's just make one engine, and that's it. Drill out the bores, make the bores bigger, different engine sizes. But this engine was built purely for the ER6F. The ER6 is brand new, twin cylinder. Sorry, I'm getting a bit much now. So sorry, guys. So sorry. I'll calm myself down. So, don't be flicking the spout. Okay? I remember which direction it is. Remember that direction. Remember it. Place it down. Your bolts. I'm going to clean out the spacer. Remember, you've got to get the spacer aligned with the holes on the brake disc. Fancy that? Put a little German sticker on it.
This steel is cast and rolled in Germany.
To their specification. So this, same.
So if there's anything I do know about EBC and their rotors are these pins that help it flow. You'll assume that underneath that is a perfect circle, but actually EBC have been one of the first companies to make that oblong, and this just floats up and down with it.
Like a floating caliper.
But if you drill one out to replace it, you can never.
It's never the same.
You can't put the pin back in. It's impossible.
You need to line this.
So putting a square pin in a round hole is possible.
So that's spot on. I personally bought these bolts from Kawasaki just because I didn't want any messing around. I just want the bolts made by Kawasaki, genuine, done. So if you go to a parts supplier and they try to sell you these and they're not from Kawasaki, just don't waste your time. You can't trust their quality. That's the problem. Oh yes, we do have Kawasaki ER6F hub discs. No, hub brake rotor bolts. So efficient, fucking hell. messing around there. Beautiful. And you can think, wow, it's cheaper than going to the dealership. The dealership, these parts are coming from Kawasaki.
A lot of mechanics will tell you it's okay to reuse the existing bolts. These cost 20 quid.
£20.
20 quid
Special
versus
order.
being a cheap house.
It isn't. And you've got to think to yourself, let's say it's a speed triple at BMW RS. These are high performance motorcycles, which means the parts need to be reliable, which means they need to come from the manufacturer. Okay? These need to come from the manufacturer. Yes, it may take a week, 4 days to get here, but at least you know it's the right thing to do. These are the right bolts you need, or the parts you need that right. Don't take that as that's what's going to happen every single time someone orders something from a manufacturer, because they can cock up, but that's very, very rare. And Toyota, they rarely ever order parts ever, because they don't need to.
Toyota are a nightmare to get parts out of, because their parts people aren't used to ordering parts.
Just honest.
Use the smaller ones just to nip them up.
Remember guys, one shot deal with this. One shot deal.
Talking them down, it's just about getting the bolts in. Once we move over to that one. So it's getting them in and seated within, see those?
Yeah.
Actually, we just want the head to seat in there, and we want all 5 heads to seat before we even think about talking.
Remember, you're thinking about the BMW RR. 1000
RR.
RR.
That's my next bike.
That's going to be his next bike.
Yeah, I'm still going to keep the Kawasaki. It's great. Had one, never did again. Had smashed hands because of it. Pieces of shit. And you'll say, no, I've had a Fireblade, best bike in the world, and all that sort of stuff. They have shit brakes. They are shit bikes. They're not the shittest in the world. If you showed me a Chinese bike, that would be shitter, yes. Yes, Hondas just don't have it. They don't have that certain something that Suzuki, Yamaha and Kawasaki have figured out. For Honda, it's like the brain dead society. Every Honda rider I've ever met yet has been brain dead. Like they're so etched. They're not excited about their bike or anything, and they want, they don't want to do simple jobs like tighten a chain up on their own bike. They have no interest in it. Alright, so yeah, I will then rephrase that and say that most Honda riders that I've ever met are not interested in the mechanical side of things. I'm sure there are Honda riders out there that tell me different. That's an internet band, not in the real world, that actually earns our keep. I don't see it that way. This is an essential maintenance task. You can see that these rotors are thicker already.
Stop at that point. Yeah, they are thicker.
They're thick. And that's can't be a bad thing. It's going to be a stop getting
Oh yes, let's say on eBay, you can get brake discs for your motorcycle, and they have all these weird shapes. Like they have wavy, XE kind of, I don't know.
8 code.
Yeah. And the thing is, let's say you're go public and you thought, oh, I found these Chinese.
We're talking about the ones that have been machined. So there's so many holes in them.
Yeah,
that you wonder how the disc functions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't flip this your motorcycle. If you have any love for your bike, any caring of it, don't fucking do it. Don't do it to your motorcycle, guys. Not only will it ride differently, it will brake differently, and not in a good way.
see you go through all that testing and put these brake discs through the paces. And you use them in motorsport. I watched some Chinese ones like, oh yes, it does only $100 from eBay. Don't do it. Don't worry, there's more to do to this Kawasaki. There's still brake pads to do and all fucking sorts. Just with this, if you want to make sure everything's torqued, don't. The only way I can stop it is put it down, right? Just pull on the ratchet. More force, more force, more force, more force, more force. There, stop. You just want to hear that click. You don't want to hear anything. Just a click, stop. Don't do anything else. If you've forgotten which ones you torqued up, this heat is fucking doing my head in, Dad. It's hurting hot.
It's the brake fluid reservoir. Get a Phillips screwdriver, loosen off the 2 screws. Don't take the cover off, just loosen it off. When you take the pads out, fluid's going to start coming out of this, and fluid will destroy paintwork. To get cloth, towel, whichever, wrap around the brake fluid reservoir, cover up your paintwork where you think it's going to drip, and get cracking on the pads. Why is the fluid going to come out? So we need to pull the piston back.
We're pushing the piston back.
That's why. So because you're pushing the piston back, pressure.
Where's the fluid going to go? It's got to go back up. It's going to go back up into the reservoir, and people will force pistons back. I'll show you that in a sec. They'll force pistons back without giving the reservoir a break, and it will be sealed, and they'll be going, oh, his pistons won't move, and they end up damaging the calipers because they haven't allowed. It's going to come out however we like it or not. Is a tool for pushing the pistons back, and it comes from I think it was made in 1960 something, and it's been welded a few times, and it's very janky, believe it or not.
Next stage, you need to get this tool in there, and what you're going to do is push the piston back. You can get grips that would do that. Since the pads are here and it's metal, why not use the pads to push that piston back? Saves you a bit of time, all that sort of good stuff. These are old, and we're not going to use them again. We're going to use new EBCs, so it doesn't matter what happens to these old pads. And one of the things I'm doing is just being careful. You don't want to twist this brake line too much, so I'm being as gentle as I can, and not twisting this brake line. And just keep getting into the pistons all the way back with this tool. What was the other thing I was saying?
But sometimes people push the pistons back in, but then they're doing it with the brake pads removed.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but if you bugger up the piston, that does matter because that's a new caliper.
I've seen pistons with a plastic, I don't know what it is, it's like a plastic or ceramic thing over the top of it.
A lot of new motorcycles are coming through it, and you probably are thinking, well,
what push against it, it breaks.
Yeah. So you're thinking to yourself, well, why don't I just, what does that matter? Well, plastic versus metal, metal's always going to win, and plastic breaks.
Stiff cup of tea.
You end up breaking that plastic piece, and they just break. You'd think there'd be stronger elements, and that plastic break is brittle.
It's like the best.
It's the best! The best, guys. The best. So, you're going to need some of this. That's a lubricant. It's a lubricant! It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And these are the EBCs.
Next thing is to take out this locking pin, which is holding the pads in place.
You need to take
It's rotating. It's got an R-clip on it. Can I have a pick to retain these?
See, that's the thing. Every motorcycle is built slightly different.
Okay, I've got it.
Safety, guys, for safety. need one of these retaining clips.
Ever straightforward, isn't it?
No, same with IT, so absolutely straightforward. But we love it.
Pin comes out.
Bing.
That's going to need to clean that up with some sandpaper and lubricate it. And here come our pads.
Twist them, plan.
New pads, please. Locking pin.
Is it called memory sandpaper, isn't it?
Emery, yeah.
Emery cloth.
It's really weird because I don't see a thread on this.
It's
I
hidden
don't
in
see a
the dark.
thread on how it locks in. I'm guessing it must just lock in by magic. Sheer magic.
Magic. All marked and everything.
So when you see the front pads for this motorcycle, they are different, and it's important when you take them off to remember the order in which they came off. So the way I take stuff off the motorcycle, stuff that comes off first is closer to me, stuff that comes off last is more further away. So the short one goes next to the piston. Okay, and the longer one
Goes away.
Beautiful. Just a tiny, tiny piece, that's it. If you put tea next to you, you're going to kick it over and break your favourite cup. Worst thing you can do when it comes to lubricant is get it near the friction surfaces, and that's that material there. As well, I'm keeping my lubricated finger out the way. You little bugger.
One of the things I've been finding with mechanics is that I'm working with Dad, so if you're working with someone else and they've got more experience than you, don't be afraid for them to help. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to do this all myself, yeah, you learn, but you can make mistakes, and don't be afraid to have that support so you don't cock up. You learn a few things or two. But if you're ever unsure, you've got two options here. Look at the way the pads are on the other side, and what you're looking for is where are the pads positioned next to the piston and away from the piston. So that is on the piston side, and this is away from the piston. And it's going to be the same with the other caliper. So extrapolate, extrapolate, extrapolate. This is only one side, guys. One side.
So I'm just going to put the arm clip in.
Does it go through a hole and then wrap itself around?
Actually, really easy to insert. Beautiful. Offside caliper, exactly the same procedure as we saw on the near side caliper, so it's absolutely the same. No, nothing changes. Take your time.
So,
How not to get it on your fingers?
that's a good. That's a good.
Smearing it on with the cardboard that the pads are on. If I get it on my fingers, what's going to happen here is at some point I'm going to get it on the friction material. I'm not having that. Some mechanics, really fucking idiots, or not all of them, will lubricate this part here on the edge. It's fucking pointless, guys. I guess we will argue it on design and.
But that's not
what
where the
vehicle
force is
and-
going. It's not going around the edge. It's going around the back.
It's a fucking Krypton factor.
Krypton. How ancient is that? Krypton.
It was actually a game show on the BBC. I think it was a BBC or ITV4. Krypton factor. Can you put these plastic shapes into this plastic shape and make a tetrahedron? Yeah!
Making progress, guys. We're
here is going to be not only
all the time.
making sure that these spacers don't fall off. You're getting power on as well. It's going to be real fun. So what we actually need is a lift. So if you position yourself more central, go down, we actually need a lift. Why would you go up? Yeah, good. Lift up. Okay, now flex. Yeah. Go through. Okay, we'll let go. Let's get that time.
For the front axle, the torque setting is 208 newtons. What do I need to do?
I need to get the axle in. So I'm going to rotate, you're going to lift and wiggle until I kind of lift it up. Looks good to me. I'm on my way. I have my hand on the end so that I'm just going to hit the paint. It's my hand.
Like that, eh?
Well, a lot of mechanics get that the customer actually likes their paintwork.
Why? Well, I think not. That's it, since we give a shit about our metal, we really love our metal. So yeah, good point. Haven't got far to go now.
It's got to be like the most exciting bit you guys have ever seen on YouTube in the long time.
Really?
I think.
It's a lot of force, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got so much stress to
Right. Beautiful. Let's open these calipers on.
yeah.
And take some wiggling.
Oh yeah. Don't worry, you're not going to damage anything. Just find where the pad is closest to the piston. Just wiggle it until the one go into the disc. Well, rotor is.
The brake caliper bolts used to be covered in lithium grease. So I'm going to pop them back on the bike. A little bit of Locktite. Grease. I think we're all mechanics in different ways. Me, I'm a big believer in a little dog. I've never seen the point in absolutely drowning something in Locktite, because at some point I'm going to want to change these pads again. The reason I haven't talked about torque settings throughout this job is some of you are going to get them off the forum, some of them, if you're going to get them from manufacturer specifications. I'm just not here to obviously I know what I'm talking about until you go do your own research. I wouldn't want to be a video that says, oh yeah, it's definitely 1 Newton meter, and then you end up killing yourself and then blaming my YouTube videos. You should really refer to the relevant technical manual.
We're going to do is just put a little bit of Locktite on these threads. So at that stage when it's in liquid form, put it in and the Locktite will just go around the threads as you're tightening. Calipers stop you, especially when you need to put the anchors on. You want to make sure they stay there when you screw them in. So let's get cracking. I'm going to start with the first one. You just need to take
neat little trick to finding your guide.
Yeah.
If you're interested, it's to stick a Phillips in.
Sometimes you could get tempted to get frustrated and go, wow, I've got to use the tool on this, it just won't go in. Don't. Do it by hand, and then when you feel it going by hand, then you're good. You start using the tool on it, you're going to fuck up the threads, so just don't. Once you're happy, you've got it as tight as you can with your hand, get the tool, 12mm socket. So what you need to do is find the service manual or manufacturer's relevant information from there. These little bolts, click in a bit. This one, we call it front axle clamp bolt, 34 Nm. Don't be afraid to use a bit of Locktite. Getting there, guys, we are getting there. So this is now the front brake discs and front brake rotors and the pads installed on ER6F, also known as Ninja 650i. Ninja!
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Disc pads.
The way we...
The little rascal has spillage. As what, sir?
This is the end of the trail for me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, kid.